Welcome, everyone, to the QED-C Quantum Marketplace. This session is focusing on some of the members of QED-C who provide services. QED-C is a very inclusive consortium of stakeholders, and it's really built a trusted community of organizations and individuals who are committed to realizing the goal of enabling and growing and accelerating progress in the area of quantum, to create a quantum economy and grow that quantum economy. And there's a lot of hands that are needed in order to make that happen. So while we have companies that are building, designing, developing the hardware and the software, we also have members who are going to provide the critical support to that whole ecosystem to make it happen. And we're excited to hear from some of those folks today. So I'm Celia Merzbacher. I'm Executive Director of QED-C. And I'm going to turn it over now to the moderator and host of today's event, Bob Wald with Quantum Rings. Bob, over to you.
Sounds great. Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to today's Quantum Marketplace webinar on professional services for quantum. As Celia said, my name is Bob Wold. I'm the CEO of Quantum Rings. When I'm not moderating panels like this, my day job is to run a software company in the quantum space that focuses on executing really large quantum circuits on classical hardware so your developers can get further with their algorithms and applications. But today it's my honor to be moderating this panel. And it's going to be a really exciting panel today. We've got a lot of leading experts from a broad set of quantum service providers. And I think they're really going to help you understand sort of better the realities of what the quantum marketplace is like, what it's like to be a company engaging with quantum in the early days, what it's like to be a company starting to de-risk their strategy by doing prototypes, what it's like to be a policymaker today. There's all kinds of different stakeholders. And so as we jump into this, I'd like to just take a minute to walk you through a welcoming to the quantum marketplace. We'll go over the topic in a little bit more detail, the panelists to present a little bit more about their specific company and where they play in this space. And then finally, we'll do a panel discussion. Now, normally we like to say that there's time for Q&A at the end, but I'm going to guess that we've got so many exciting people that there probably won't be a lot of time for live Q&A at the end. So I would encourage everybody to submit your questions via Zoom, and I'll do my best to keep an eye on those and to try to incorporate those as we go. So again, welcome. The Quantum Marketplace is really all about giving QED-C members a stage to sort of highlight what products and services they provide. It also gives a great opportunity to connect with each other. So these sessions are always recorded and they end up being shared on YouTube. You can find them on the QED-C site or on the YouTube channel. And you're welcome, like I say, at any point to add your own questions so you can participate in where we go as a group. Finally, I will say if you are a member company, like Quantum Rings is a member company, and you are interested in participating in a quantum marketplace event, definitely do reach out to QED-C. They're always looking for experts to participate in all kinds of these panel conversations. It sort of starts off as a give first thing where, you share your expertise with the broader community, but it has a cool way of getting you noticed and, returning that investment. All right, so like we said, this is a screenshot from the QED-C Quantum Marketplace website, and that's sort of the easiest place to go, especially if you are a member. You can also go to YouTube. All of these are posted on YouTube. There's a little bit of time between when this is recorded and when it shows up on YouTube, but that's one of the easier ways to share these videos. And to give you just a little bit more context about professional services for quantum. This is actually probably not the order that I would have listed these, though it does ring near and dear to my heart because it starts with science and technology. That is a place. Once you're on your journey and you're ready to start going deeper into implementation, development, validation, experimentation, scaling, there are consultants that like to focus on that. If you need expertise on building quantum systems, if you are in the quantum supply chain, there's definitely professional service providers who focus on providing those types of specialties. But actually, this third bullet point, the business and management consulting, is really sort of like the beginning of the journey. This is where consultants help organizations understand how and when to adopt quantum technologies, when it may be relevant to their company, and how they should incorporate it into their strategy. There's also experts that focus on things like legal and intellectual property. Whether you are a quantum company inventing quantum technologies or you are a practitioner, a lot of the big players in the corporate America today who are investing in quantum are building out their quantum IP portfolio now, ahead of the availability of really large fault-tolerant quantum computers. There's also advisory that focuses in on finance and investment strategy, whether you're trying to raise capital or whether you're trying to figure out where to deploy your capital. There are consultants that help with that. Obviously, IT and cloud infrastructure, especially as we look at things like post-quantum cryptography in the sort of immediate near-term rollout of those types of technologies. And lastly, one of the areas that we do see just a huge amount of motion in the consulting area is around education and workforce development. And so today's panelists do represent a very broad set of consultants. I'll sort of introduce in the order that they will be presenting, and then we'll have each of them share a little bit about where they fall in this value chain. And the first person who will be presenting is Scott from Deloitte. Scott, it's great to see you. We'll have you share in just a minute. Second, we'll have Keeper present. Keeper is from ODE and focuses a little bit more on implementation. We have Tom from Accenture, another well-known brand, followed by Rob from Quantum Policy Group. Quantum Policy Group is focused on a very different area than the rest of the consultants here. And then we'll wrap up with Ashmini from Ernst & Young. And with that, Scott, I will hand it over to you to share.
Thanks, Bob. It's great to see everybody here today. For those who may not be familiar with Deloitte, we are a global professional services firm. That means that we do all manner of consulting in technology and strategy, advisory, and a whole variety of things across the globe. We support a lot of the different things that Bob was actually talking about in that taxonomy of services. So notably, we work with large Fortune 5000 clients when they are trying to understand what does quantum mean for us. And that's either if they're trying to explore use cases and uses of quantum technologies, if they're trying to understand what does it mean for the future of cybersecurity, how do we need to prepare? Sometimes people want to engage in roadmaps and those sorts of understanding and exercises. That's the who, what, when, where, why, and how of what we should do, what we need to know, where we need to start, and how we need to engage. So all of those things we do across a whole range of different things. In addition, we support customers who actually want to do proofs of concept and implementations. We have solutions that range from things directly on quantum computers to quantum-inspired technology that can actually generate value today running on classical hardware. We work with partners across the ecosystem. So if you can think of a company that's working in quantum computing or the quantum safe, quantum cybersecurity space, we're probably actively working with them on clients. In addition to all of that, we also support startups in their journey to understand market analysis. We've supported due diligence for startups and a whole variety of things across industries and across the ecosystem. So chances are good as long as it doesn't involve a screwdriver and a hammer, if you have a question or a concern, we can probably help. The only other thing I will say is just, if you are curious to learn more, you are always welcome to reach out to me. You are welcome to reach out to us on our website. We have a handful of our very many pieces of eminence that you might find interesting as you start your journey, shared here today with the QR codes. And certainly, if you'd like to learn more, please feel free to reach out. Okay, Bob, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I thought that was a really funny description. As long as it doesn't involve a hammer and a screwdriver, it would not surprise me if you could find somebody at Deloitte who worked with hammers and screwdrivers and sold those services also. Next up, we have Keeper.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here, Dr. Sharkey. I have had a career in quantum technologies for the last 20 years. I started my business in 2018, and I can say that it has been a very cross-interdisciplinary endeavor for me, such that I have been awarded most influential figures in quantum technologies by Alpha Events, the Hot 10 2025. And I've also been awarded 40 under 40 for cybersecurity. But traditionally, I'm a chemist. I am a quantum chemist, and I understand quantum mechanics from a very fundamental level. I went through the National Science Foundation Innovation Corps program, where I interviewed many different archetypes and different industry verticals to understand the pain points that the industry is facing. And, to continue on about what it is that I'm actually developing, let's see, slides. Quantum computing hardware manufacturers do face some issues with moving past noisy scale intermediate devices. And there are bulk material noises depending on the kind of platform or modality that a quantum computer is built off of. But then there's also small sources of noises that, for instance, ion traps are going to have electric field heat noises. And what we need to be able to do is understand from a very fundamental quantum mechanics ideas where the noise is actually coming from. So how can we better understand purchasing the lasers, how to tune these lasers, and so on and so forth. So that's kind of been the effort that I have put together for my particular value proposition. I want to solve energy problems, and especially specifically around chemistry. So how can we be using quantum qubits, right, to describe chemical states of matter with a higher level of accuracy and precision, right? So this has been a long time for me to understand these kinds of things. And what's really interesting about the technology that I'm developing is that I create very accurate wave functions. So if a quantum computer technically is a camera taking a picture or a measurement of a physical system, I am creating a sort of compass to help the quantum computing manufacturer hone in on the actual wave functions that the qubit states are in. Okay? So I call this quantum virtualization as a service. The technology is called CLEAN, for quantum logical electrons and nuclei. It moves past the standard approximations that were invented in the 1920s by the founding fathers of quantum computing or quantum mechanics. And it's a really fun to be able to kind of look at these pictures where qubits actually have the vibration from the heat noise. So business model for my company is to contract with hardware solutions and be able to understand their problems from a more engineering perspective, and then create algorithms to help them create new solutions. Those algorithms can then be licensed into current software package providers, which they have a complete distribution channel. And of course, I can use Amazon platform for hybrid computing. So that's really interesting there. But all in all, my team has over 120 years of quantum experience, and so what we do is we come in and we do coaching. I have gone from the Department of Air Force Information Technology conferences all the way to banking conferences to do trainings. I've also gone into academia with universities and coached quantum adjacent professors in quantum technologies to enhance their teaching platforms. Further, I have also written a book, Quantum Chemistry and Computing for the Curious, that was recently named one of the top 10 chemistry books of all time. So that's been really exciting. And so I like to focus on corporate training and coaching. It's my primary focus right now is to get that workforce development enhanced so that we can increase the adoption of quantum technologies, as well as moving past noisy scale intermediate devices. As a co-founding member of the Quantum Economic Development Consortium, I am leading a workshop next week at the plenary meeting on quantum chemistry. I'm very excited about that. And another group I work with is called the InfraGuard, which is a public-private partnership with the FBI. And I run a program there called Quantum Technologies and Cybersecurity. And I work with the 16 critical infrastructure sector stakeholders to help them understand better what quantum technologies can be doing specifically around cybersecurity and other aspects with quantum computing. And with that, I will go ahead and stop sharing. Thank you.
That was both a cool resume and a cool breadth of projects that you're working on, Kiefer. Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Next up, we have Tom from Accenture.
Well, I love QED-C. We support QED-C. The problem when I come and talk to QED-C is I have to follow people like Dr. Kepler, who, really impressive, really impressive. I came out of the U.S. intelligence community as a security specialist, and in 2015 was asked by then President Obama to take a look at quantum security, and I was just the opposite of Dr. Sharkey, and this is I didn't believe it could be in two places at once, two things at once. None of it. Schrodinger's cat was just a box to me. So I had to have it beaten into my head. But advising the White House, you get to be taught by the best and the brightest in the world. And while it took me a while, I think I've become one of the strongest advocates for adopting quantum safely around the world. I fought it and I fought it and I fought it until finally it was literally grabbed by the lapels in the White House and said that I just need to get it. But now I've got it. And so I've been advising every administration from Obama's on, including current, on quantum security. We helped create national policy. We helped create funding through National Science Foundation. We created a lot of executive orders that have come out recently and contributed to those and more to come. So from a national policy perspective, I think the U.S. is in a really good place. I joined Accenture specifically 3 years ago because we thought industry was not in that same good place in terms of adopting the benefits of quantum and adopting it in a safe and secure way. So I wanted to reach Accenture's clients. Accenture, as you pointed out, is a big brand everybody's heard of. Our clients are pretty much the best and the brightest around the world. And I wanted to bring quantum security into their world. So Accenture does do, everything, and we probably have hammers and nail people as well around the world. So we have here's how you can make use of quantum compute, quantum sensing types of teams, but we integrate that in with a lot of the other processes we do. We integrate it into manufacturing solutions in our space solutions and other things that are happening. But what I've found is that the earliest adopters for quantum security are the ones that are also the early adopters on understanding how quantum will help. So we have a quantum security practice. I look at I'm in charge of running all of our emerging technology security stuff. So I look at a wide variety of things like AI and robots and other things that are here to come. But quantum is one that is certainly really going strong right now in terms of quantum security. So, I know QED-C understands quantum. They understand the uses of quantum. The flip side is more people are concerned with quantum breaking their encryption than they are concerned with what it can do for them. And so the QED-C has a huge role to play to show what it can do for them. But we don't want to lose sight of the fact that people care right now about what it can do against them. And that really comes down to it's close to being able to break encryption. The world's all changing. That cannot afford to wait. I've been doing the WEF talks on this for 7 years, and it went from science fiction to science fact to, okay, what do I do about it now? How do we go fix that? So I just wanted to spend a little time here. This is not an ad for Accenture time, but really just to show these are the 8 steps that every company in the world is going to go through over the rest of this decade. And we just try and we set up teams and invested in capabilities to try and help our clients go through this. But really, it's I think valuable for everyone to see. This is the time everyone needs to set a strategy on how they're going to change their encryption. You're going to change. The encryption that you use today will not be usable in the next decade. So you have to change. And you can wait and try and expect someone else to do it for you, or you can get together your own strategy on how you're going to do it the most efficiently. That is a very valuable early step that all the big companies are taking. And we think everyone should be taking it at their own level, even if you're just using ChatGPT to help you write a PQC strategy, because there's lots of really good open source stuff out there that it has access to one way or the other. The second is a laborious process. It's not magic. It doesn't require quantum computing. It's just the discovery. You have to find all the vulnerable encryption throughout your enterprise and put it into some sort of an organized form and fashion. So there are now tools to do that. There's now an emerging standard called CBOM, Cryptographic Bill of Materials, that is sort of the way to keep it. But you've got to go through this process. For big companies, it takes years. For small companies, it takes months. But you've got to go through and understand where your vulnerabilities are. You've got to then go through and understand what all your partners are. We have some clients that have 10,000 trading partners, business partners, and each one of those 10,000 is also going to change their encryption over the next few years. And so keeping that ecosystem organized so that everybody changes the same way at the same time and works that out is really important. Turns out now there's lots of ways to skin Schrodinger's cat. There's new standards that you can come out and use that are resistant to a quantum computer. And so they would be good to use, but there's also using quantum physics itself, using for quantum key distribution. So there's lots of ways to come up with your own architecture. And one of the things that Accenture does most right now is helping our clients develop the architectures that are right for them to be defensive. You've got to then test this stuff. None of this new stuff works out of the box the way the salespeople say it should. And so putting together a way to test interoperability and performance differences in the post-quantum world is life-changing. Then you get to trials and rollouts. And ultimately, we stop using the word quantum when we just say, okay, we're managing our encryption better than we used to. And this was the reason why. But these 8 steps are really where I wanted to focus today, because the people that are focused on the one side of the coin, the good side of the coin, on all the cool things quantum's going to do for us, are also the ones that are well aware of what it could do to us. So doing a strategy, doing your discovery, and then coming up with this the way the future is something called crypto agility. So you don't just replace an old algorithm with a new one, but you come up with a system, because there's going to be lots of new ones. So you'll have one for downloading a movie, and a different one for high frequency trading, and a different one for doing a deal in a different country. So having this new concept of crypto agility is these are the 3 things that most companies are needing right now. That's where Accenture is spending a lot of effort around the world, bringing that together for our clients. Yeah, just more detail. A lot of information out on crypto agility. We've got white papers that you can download. We've got example clients that have put out press releases on how they did it. NIST has now come out and said, this is the direction for it. The analysts have followed along and say, this is the direction for it. If you want to learn a new term around quantum in terms of quantum security, it should, for this year or next year, it should be crypto agility. So with that, there's plenty of information on our website, but I just did want to close with, we really appreciate everything that QED-C does, our involvement in it, the people that we've met through it, the way we've been able to move the needle around the world. It's an organization we're proud to support, and as we go out and help our clients through the world. That's it.
Cool. And I'm going to really quickly jump over to Rob from Quantum Policy Group. But before I do, there just happens to be a question that was exactly in the space of what you were talking about. And I figured you could probably answer it in 30 seconds or less here. The question was, new encryption standards are being developed to be quantum safe. Any comment on that, please?
Yeah, so August of last year, the first of the new encryption standards were published by NIST. It's FIPS 203, and then 203, 204, and 205 are the variants on the same algorithm. They exist now. They are new standards, but they are not the only standards. They're not the final standards. There's going to be that they're good to use, but there's going to be more that are work better in different ways. And then there's different libraries and different implementations of the standard. So the standard that came out in August of 2024 is the standard you can work with safely today, but do it in a crypto agile way because you know that there's going to be more coming down the pipe.
Perfect. Yeah, agility is key. Thank you so much for that, Tom. All right, we'll hand it over to Rob from Quantum Policy Group. Rob.
I'm Rob Schilm, the president of the Quantum Policy Group. We are a government affairs firm focused on the policy issues and that are moving forward the quantum industry. Very much interested as we move from foundational research to commercialization, to working in an environment that is both obviously commercial, but also going to be heavily influenced by the federal government. We bring 25 plus years of experience in policy, in politics, working with a number of the largest technology companies in the world over the years. Been able to do what I think is the most interesting thing for me in my particular field, which is moving policy into revenue, finding a way to understand from a lawyer's perspective, from a lobbyist perspective, what it is that is important for policymakers, but translating that and conveying that back and forth with the scientists, with the technologists, with the innovators, so that we can actually move this capitalist, this commercialized quantum industry forward. Policy affects outcomes. We have the good fortune and the coincidence of being in an industry that has pretty obvious defense, national security, intelligence, cybersecurity, critical infrastructure, overlaps, adjacency, applicability. In that kind of environment, as I said, the federal government's very involved in it, interested, and existing in that environment, it's very helpful to ensure that policy is actually moving forward your particular interest. The worst place to be, or one of the bad places to be, is to be not engaged with the government as they are creating in their best efforts, to the best of their abilities, guardrails, guidelines, structures for competition, for technological development, for investment. They do the best that they can to help move the ball forward, but oftentimes they're not going to know what you all will know. And being able to have that back and forth to guide them is exceptionally helpful. It's bad to have them do that without your guidance. It's particularly bad to have them do that with your competitors' guidance and without yours. So what I've been able to do over many years is work with technology companies to have that back and forth translation service to allow for both sides of the equation to get to a best possible outcome. As an industry, we've done well with foundational research funding. We've recently had a lot of discussion about, as with rare earths, with chips, with other companies with direct equity stakes for the federal government. But if for many of you here today, you are already selling to federal agency customers, or you're looking to do so, there are authorization bills, annual multi-year bills that provide the guidelines for the context in which they can acquire your goods, your technologies, your solutions. There are appropriations bills that provide the funding and some of the guidelines for acquiring those services. When you seek to compete and provide your services into the commercial industry, when you're just selling to other companies to provide the best possible services, there will be limitations on your supply chain. There'll be limitations on how you're able to do business in the US. You want to be able to impact how that is brought about. There are today grants and loans. Many may not know critical infrastructure in the US is being funded in many instances with federal monies that have requirements for cybersecurity. If you're a PQC company, this would be something very interesting to you, I would think. And it's something where you can work with government affairs firms to identify that, shape that, and make that available to you. So that's really kind of the structure of it. Examples of this, over the years, I've worked with companies to the National Defense Authorization Act is an annual bill. It's an authorization bill. One particular client felt they couldn't compete while selling to a federal entity because there was another larger company ahead of them in line. and the competition wasn't as fulsome as they thought it should be. We're able over a few years to change legislation to make that competition more healthy, more beneficial for that client and for the US. I've won the largest government contract for another technology client where, without using any legislation at all, we were able to develop bicameral House and Senate, bipartisan Republican and Democrat body of champions who are interested in where this agency may have not been acquiring technology in the most efficacious, most efficient, most cost-effective way. And we're able to use, I would say, suasion, short of legislation, to move them to actually let a contract and compete a contract with the private sector to provide a solution. Another example is when the federal government was putting money out into the world in terms of grants and loans to build infrastructure for technology systems. We were able to advocate for legislation that had room for our clients, and then follow that process through to the agency when the notice of funding availability was released to the world, when it didn't have the particular eligibilities that some clients wished for. We're able to again advocate for changes there. This process of working with the federal government and working in an environment where the government is involved as you seek to compete elsewhere, it definitely is helpful and useful to work with government affairs firms to understand that environment, to help government understand that you're working in their best interest and being able to find a framework where that competition works. Current administration is a fun one. We have an administration, unlike many, or really any in our lifetimes, where there's a certain level of agility, there's a certain level of outsiderness, there's a certain level of pace and expectation that's different from the way Washington has worked in many years before. And so where traditional approaches that many firms will bring to solving problems for you in DC will continue to apply, you have now this great new exciting and somewhat Wild West quality to approaching an administration that's trying to solve the greatest problems immediately. And the traditional pathways and processes, and maybe slower moving processes, are no longer as applicable. How would the Quantum Policy Group work with you? We develop a strategy with you based on who you are, what's unique about you, what's your technology solution, and where are you in the maturation of the company? Where's your footprint? Who are your people? What's your kind of your value proposition in terms of a policy stakeholder's perspective? How do we get them to understand who you are and why they need to be listening to you? Then we sit down and we figure out what your pain points are. Where are the opportunities that you have tried to make progress, but have been unable to do so to date? Where are the opportunities that maybe you don't know about because you're working in the technology field, but those of us who are in government affairs might see and might be able to create parallels for you all? We work with your sales team, we align with your sales strategy. We find out who it is that we think might be amenable to working with us together with you and bringing you to a positive solution. We figure out the ask. That is, what is it that we wish for government to do? And then we execute on the plan that we've developed. We educate our stakeholders and we influence them so that we can get to an outcome that ultimately drives revenue for you. The quantum industry moving from foundational research to commercialization is going to open up a panoply of opportunities for you all. And the Quantum Policy Group is deeply and very excited to be able to work with you. Our website, quantumpolicygroup.com. You can reach me directly, Rob, at quantumpolicygroup.com. Thank you very much for your time. Looking forward to speaking with you all.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction, Rob. And that brings us to our last panelist today, Ashmini from Ernst & Young.
I'm Ashmini Wirakun. I'm the market activation lead for EY's Global Quantum Lab, and I'll be representing EY today, discussing what we do with quantum. So consulting at EY means engaging our clients across sectors in industrials and energy and finance and government and public sector, with our business lines of consultants that specialize in cyber, risks, supply chain, and delivering sector transformation across AI and technology and now quantum. So The Quantum Lab at EY was set up in 2022, and it defines our organization's strategy and quantum execution, and it accelerates our clients' quantum journey responsibly. So it begins with partnerships in our industry. So we have long-term alliances with big names like IBM and Microsoft and Sandbox AQ, as well as academic institutions like NCSR, Democritos in Greece. Also, the reason I'm here today, we're a part of a number of consortiums, including QED-C and QUIC in Europe. We also collaborate with startups like QCI, and this enables us to have offerings across strategy and governance, computation, communications and cyber, as well as sensing. So some of our use cases have been really exciting. We have worked across sectors. We have quantum strategy in public sector, where we've worked on workforce development and raising awareness in quantum, as well as assessing quantum supply chains from qubits to enabling technologies like lasers and cryogenics. We've also worked in sustainability. We've developed quantum circuits for multi-layer feed-forward neural networks, for binary classification and agricultural monitoring. We've also worked with IBM in quite a few of these use cases and portfolio optimization, as well as working with QCI in a different type of use case for portfolio optimization. In life sciences, DNA sequencing, and of course, this group needs no introduction to the threat of quantum on existing cryptography. So we also have a strong quantum cybersecurity presence and have done PQC use cases across finance as well as life sciences and a number of other sectors. And we have a great team of quantum experts, a global network here at EY. We're able to hone in with our cybersecurity departments, our data departments, and really provide a holistic view towards enabling quantum technologies. So moving forward, we're focusing on 3 key offerings for our clients. So looking at quantum cybersecurity, we work actively with Sandbox AQ to develop accelerators, as well as working with their products like ActiveGuard that have a suite of scanners to discover and inventory crypto assets. And we're also able to prioritize those risks to have a strategic roadmap towards remediation. Also, we focus strongly on quantum technology advisory. On one hand, we collaborate with startups to work on POCs and advanced research. We've had also, this could be startups, but also academic institutions. We also help organizations understand how quantum fits into their strategic plans. So we have a quantum readiness and innovation framework that is a precursor to the way that we create a strategic roadmap so our clients know what day zero looks like in quantum and how that scales and industrializes to deliver measurable and commercial value. We also engage with the quantum community. So we've gone to a number of different conferences. Quantum World Congress will be at the CQE coming up, as well as the QED-C conference. And we maintain relationships with our alliances at various webinars. We just had one with IBM in finance just yesterday. And we also developed a leadership as a way of contributing to the community. So we recently just had a paper on the effect of entanglement operators and player quantum games published in the internationally acclaimed academic journal, the Wiley Journal. So we've been able to engage with the community through thought leadership, our roadmaps and strategy, as well as our cybersecurity. So we have EY Quantum Safe, which has a suite of different accelerators. We do PQC assessments. We discuss quantum threats with our clients. There have been, some predictions about when Q date will come, and those have fallen short, or some clients are just not so familiar with quantum threats. So we start day zero just discussing that and encouraging clients about the urgency to start right away. And after that, we go through this process of discovery and inventory where we're able to use Sandbox AQ's active guards scanners to look at vulnerabilities across the products and the data that are vulnerable to quantum threats. So we also prioritize those risks across regulations with NIST, as well as the company's specific risk appetite and risk profile, to then work on those paths towards remediation. And we're able to use our cyber defense and cryptanalysis capabilities. We also have this quantum readiness and innovation framework. This is a model that evaluates an organization's readiness for quantum. So we're able to look at a number of different metrics like maturity and confidence, and distill this into a final score that sets the tone about how ready the organization is to adopt quantum. And this is a customizable framework that we use across ecosystems and markets, commercial organizations, and government and public sector. And the main goal of this is that we want organizations to start early. We believe in the first mover advantage and minimizing any risks that come with quantum. Also focusing on their future growth, not only the financial gain that could come, but also workforce development, risk mitigation, other organizational performance indicators. And this also, as I mentioned, is setting the stage for creating an effective quantum strategy and an implementable roadmap. And so this has been very effective across government ministries, big banks. We're looking at how different organizations can get ready for quantum. So EY has been supporting quantum since 2019. We have 750 members of EY who are in our global quantum community. We partner with Q Control to provide quantum computing certificates. So we have a great workforce development program happening here at EY, where we're not looking at quantum as a separate entity, but as a skill that anyone can develop, whether you're someone who's interested in algorithms or software, or being a business analyst, or even more hardware side. We also have people who are working on that as well. And as I mentioned, we are a global team. So we have members from all around the world in our core team. And we also have our quantum cyber team that is working on our PQC initiatives as well. And if you have any questions or interested in collaborating with us, please do reach out to myself or our global quantum lead, Karthik, who is also a great resource. I will be out of office soon, so he's probably be better to chat with in the near future. All right, thank you so much, QED-C, for having me, and I'll turn it back over to you, Bob.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, thanks for that. And while I'm bringing up the slides with the questions here, there were a couple of questions just specifically to you around who your typical clients are and what types of verticals you serve, if you want to hit that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, we have clients, as I mentioned, across the board. I would say around a lot of optimization use cases. Finance has been a key industry for us, as well as PQC. Big banks have a lot to lose reputation-wise and customer satisfaction-wise around any type of quantum cyber threats. So finance has been a big use case. We've also had interest from energy clients, life sciences clients, supply chain, government organizations as well. So it's been across the board. I would say probably more centralized in finance, given EY also has robust finance consulting verticals. Definitely we lean towards computation within that, probably more so optimization and machine learning, but we also do have our strong cybersecurity practice as well.
Cool. All right. And yeah, so thank you all panelists for giving those nice presentations about yourself. I think the audience has a lot more context about who you all are and where your kind of different areas of expertise and focus are. So we'll get into the regularly scheduled questions. As we get ready to ask the first question, I will say a lot of the comments that I've seen have really been around like, well, I hear quantum computing isn't ready yet. And then I hear quantum computing has done absolutely amazing things. And then I hear that we can't do anything till we have error-corrected qubits. But then I hear people saying we have error-corrected qubits. Like, when should a company actually get started? And I think that plays really well into the first question, which is, when a new client approaches you, how do you assess whether quantum is the right technology for their problems? And yeah, or whether it's not. And I'll sort of open it up to whoever wants to start.
Well, I'll jump in, Bob, if it's all right. This is something that I think a lot of first-time people looking at companies looking at quantum really don't understand. It's not a matter of, oh, they're going to take these workloads that work great on a mainframe or work great in a cloud, and they're going to work even better on a quantum computer once you figure out that whole error correction thing. Obviously, that's not the phase. So we generally start them with a whole series of education and training on what workloads quantum computers were built for or are being built for, and then help them understand where to look within their organization, where something like that could really help. Then start to educate on which computers are in companies are going down that particular path, and then help them figure out how to start to make use of them either in simulator mode or in the smaller versions that are available today. And once you take that path, you can get them really excited really quickly about solving something that they never thought could be solved before, or optimizing something that could never be optimized to this level before. But breaking them of that, it's just a faster computer for my workloads is a real issue, and something that we spend a lot of time helping our clients through, so that they can see how best to leverage quantum information science.
Cool. Yeah, and I noticed Scott also unmuted, so I'll sort of direct any follow-up thoughts to you, Scott.
I agree with Tom. I think I would just add, sometimes what we try to do is find analogies to help people understand why a quantum computer is not just a better version of what we have today. So sometimes I point out that it's the difference between a light bulb and a laser. Both of them emit light, but they are not substitutes for one another. I think the other thing too is sometimes people get excited because they say, well, I heard a quantum computer can do this. And, you know, whether or not that is true today, tomorrow, or into the future, sometimes there's a good enough solution today with today's existing technology. And so you don't really need a quantum solution to a problem that perhaps you only solve once a year, you already have a good enough answer, or there's a slightly better good enough answer. Sometimes the answer is not quantum, just do a different variant of what you're already doing.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And so sort of building on that, which you guys did a great job of directly responding to some of those like sentiments and questions from the community. But, on this topic of like, well, what do you do when a client approaches you? Like, what are the first steps to sort of figure out if quantum's right for them? Because in my opinion, I like to tell a lot of people like quantum is not the right answer for you at this point of your business. PQC aside, post-quantum cryptography aside, which everybody needs to be thinking about. How do you guys engage?
How's this? I'll just answer quickly. Part of what I suggest every organization do, if they haven't done so already, is come up, like I mentioned before, with a bit of a roadmap, which is to say, what Tom talked about, it's a combination of education, knowing where to look in your organization, know what might be the most interesting use cases, and then think from an organizational perspective, what is your risk tolerance? Do you want to treat this like a call option on a future market where you want to capture the upside? Do you want to treat this like an insurance policy where you want to invest some amount today to mitigate the downside? Or are you willing to wait and take the risk of strategically pausing until some point in the future? And that combination of thinking is really useful because then you know deliberately what you're doing, as opposed to making an unconscious decision to punt this down the road for some future you.
Yeah, okay, that's great. And I think you and Tom both kind of come from a similar type of okay, Accenture and Deloitte, totally different companies, but sort of a similar lens. But I would be really interested in sort of, Keeper, Rob, what are some of your thoughts? Is there sort of different ways that you guys end up engaging with customers? Do you join at a different place or with a totally different type of customer?
Yeah, so there's actually two, factions. There's the cybersecurity side, right? So how are we encrypting and, post-quantum cryptography and all of that? That's all exciting. But for me, I really enjoy understanding what are the quantum computing use cases, right? And how are we getting the quantum sensors to do sensing and then take that information, that quantum information, have it processed by a quantum computer. So that's still a large area of research. One project I actually worked on recently last year, and it was published at IEEE Quantum Week, was with Accenture and MIT. So I came in as a contractor to help them understand what is a computational complexity behind algorithms. So a lot of what we have to do is we have to take algorithms that have been implemented on HPC historically, okay, understand the computational complexity behind that. How difficult is that problem, right? And then how is that going to be translated to a quantum computer? And how large is that problem? Okay, what is the problem size? And at what number of qubits do we actually need to gain an advantage over that problem? So the project I worked on was called the Quantum Economic Advantage Calculator. So I'm putting it in the chat for everyone. And there you can go and look at the different hardware manufacturers. You can select what computer you want to look at. You can also go in and take a look at the different algorithms, which could be traveling salesman or Grover's search algorithm. I also put quantum chemistry in there, right? So quantum chemistry algorithms. And so you can take a look at how large a computer has to be in terms of the number of qubits and at what point in the future we might get there to actually solve a problem. So that's kind of one aspect of the work that I've done the last year.
Yeah, sounds great. And I'll give a shout out to that tool. I had a chance to play with it a few weeks ago, and I love it. I don't know if it's quite like an executive probably doesn't just jump right in and map their business problems into traveling salesmen or whatever. But if you're like one or two layers into the nerd aspects of the company, it does a great job of kind of helping understand resource estimations. And I think that plays into a question that just came up, which was from Jackie O. It says, people not in the know laugh when you hear quantum computers and they say it's 20 to 30 years out. Others say 5 to 10 years. How do you address folks needing to deal with it now as far as timelines and adoption are concerned? And one of the things I think is like really interesting, I'll share my perspective and then hand it over to you guys to share some perspective, is I think like both of those are true. Like I think quantum computers both are available now. They will be available in 5 to 10 years and they will be available in 20 to 30 years. But what you were saying, Keeper, about like resource estimation, like how much quantum compute does it take to solve this class of problem or this scale of problem? That's sort of where that huge sliding scale lies, where you can sort of say all of those are simultaneously, true. Other thoughts?
Yeah, it's definitely not at the corporate level. I think the tool is good for, the corporates can go in and play with this. But yeah, it's definitely for people who are getting their hands dirty and actually developing algorithms. And right now, we do have an issue with circuit depth. Even for quantum chemistry problems, it's still not advantageous to run quantum chemistry on a quantum computer. We really have to go back and take a look at, what is the quantum information science? And so there's still a lot of work to be done. But it's really exciting in terms of the cybersecurity side because we're making a lot of progress with, QKD. There's a lot of startups that are popping up, and how are we integrating those services in with the critical infrastructure sector? So, I like to separate the two problems, and so I'm quite busy in terms of like focusing on quantum computing versus what does it look like for the cybersecurity side. And right now, I think the industry really needs to focus on building trust. Okay, so part of the QED-C initiatives over the next couple of years is to build trust among the members, so that when they go to implement these technologies, that they critical infrastructure stakeholders can understand that yes, okay, I can trust that it does exactly what it says it's going to be doing, right? Because right now there's been a lot of like, I don't understand quantum. Does it really do this? And so we have to bridge that gap in workforce development and the understanding of quantum technologies.
Great.
Generally speaking, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to make two quick notes, and then we'll try to hear from some of the panelists that we haven't heard from yet. And so the first note is, I could totally make this the first ever quantum marketplace where we don't make it past the first question because you guys are so interesting and you have so many points just on this first point. We'll get to the second question, I promise. We'll make it through at least two. And then the second thing I'll say is that, well, I think this is sort of like framed up as ending at the top of the hour. I know on my calendar it was blocked a little longer than that. So for any of the panelists who are willing to stay a little later, we'll see if we can get into a couple additional questions beyond that. So moving to the next one, the next question is, what's an example of a successful engagement that moved beyond a proof of concept and created measurable value? Anybody want to jump in with that one?
I've got one, Bob. There's a big bank in Europe that wanted to go to crypto agility before the new standards were published by NIST. So I think 2.5 years ago, they saw that this was coming. They knew that there were not standards yet, but they wanted to get ahead of the game and be a leader at thinking through this. They realized it was going to be a multi-year process to make all the changes. So they actually implemented crypto agility with one of the candidate algorithms from NIST at the time, the best candidate algorithm from NIST at the time, and they put that in. And it worked, and it defended them against a theoretical quantum attack. They may or may not have been under a steal now, decrypt later issue where they were losing some encrypted data that was being held by adversaries. But they did want to get that done. Then a year later, the standard gets published in August, and they call me up and they say, oh, okay, so do we have to do this again? Do we not need another engagement to go now change to this new algorithm? And no, you press this literally, you press a button on your console and you upgrade, you change the algorithm. So they changed from the old candidate algorithm to the new standard algorithm in less than a couple of days throughout their enterprise. And so they went out and published on that. And you can find that case study on our website at the link that I had provided at the end. But there aren't a whole lot of people that have gone that far down the road to the point where they're bragging about their successes. But there are an awful lot of companies that are past the strategy, that are either well into the discovery section and already starting to implement some remediation where they can do it with either crypto agility, with encapsulation, or QED on backhaul and things. So there are definitely some success stories in almost every industry that you can point to if you're looking for sort of comfort to go into your bosses and say, hey, we're not the only ones doing this. We found that those kind of case studies have been really helpful, and we're happy to share.
Cool. Hey, one of the questions that just came in is really kind of like off topic, but I think relevant. And Rob, I think actually, if I understand your recent starting of the Quantum Policy Group, might actually be really applicable to you here. The question was, how can I become a consultant in quantum technologies? I mean, it's a pretty complex field, and I think a lot of people are probably thinking like, I have to go back to school and get a PhD in quantum physics. Tell me a little bit about your journey and how you enter into this industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that. I think, first of all, I was a staffer in the U.S. Senate many, many, many years ago, and I've been a lawyer for many years, subtracting a few of the manys on that one. And I've worked, as a lobbyist, both outside of companies and, directly in-house for technology companies to help them kind of find their way through Washington, D.C. So how do you become a consultant? I think one of the things you do is figure out what your value proposition is itself. What business value can you possibly bring to these conversations? For me, it's 25 plus years of working with technology companies in different fields, in AI, in cybersecurity, telecommunications, and data and software, internet backbone, all kinds of different places, and learning the lessons that there are analogies and repeatable patterns across industries, that each industry has its own unique systems and value propositions and challenges, perhaps. But ultimately, we're still funneling from a government affairs perspective. We're looking at funneling those issues through the lens of policy making. So you're going to find yourselves, solving similar problems or approaching some of the same people that you've known for many decades, and building upon lessons learned in the past. So how do you build a business? I think one of the first things you do is you make sure that you're heavily involved in QED-C. This is a primary meeting place for these types of conversations and provides a great deal of value. I hope to see many of you at the annual meeting next week. And I think what you do is lean upon that which you know. I am a lawyer by training. I am not a scientist. I listen to Dr. Sharkey's presentations and I learn something each time in terms of the depth and the breadth of what she does. But what you need to be able to do, from my point of view, is to understand that which is being shared with you by your technology clients and being able to translate it to folks who are probably a bit more similar to myself in bringing kind of a liberal arts background, a legal background, a policy background to the conversation, and making sure you're building that skill, making sure that you can understand both sides and bring value.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Great. Thanks for that. And then, just another question, and maybe Ashmini, let me know if this is one appropriate for you or not. Is quantum computers? Well, it says quantum PQC, which runs quantum algorithms on classical computers, can potentially increase time to decryption from minutes to possibly centuries or longer. How does that affect incentive to develop and implement quantum cryptography in computing? How imperative is it that we push for true quantum cryptography, and in what timeline?
Our philosophy at EY is as soon as possible. I mean, we think the harvest now, decrypt later scenario is terrifying, especially for big banks or companies that are under HIPAA regulation, so life sciences or healthcare. And so spreading awareness about it has been the first step. But also, for a lot of these companies, they have self-hosted apps or databases or external databases with things like Palo Alto Systems or ServiceNow. So examining this anatomy of a company's data is usually our first step, and that's that inventory and discovery phase. And so it very much is different for different companies. So financial services often have Java applications, and so you need something like a Java tracer for that. So, I mean, we urge as soon as possible because it's not a quick process. I mean, we saw this with Y2K. So I think with all the funding going into quantum right now from the National Science Foundation and all the attention it's gotten this past year in the year of quantum, a lot of these timelines, and even with the advent of generative AI and how that's pushing sciences, I think previous predictions about when Q-Day will come might even be accelerated given all these factors. All the attention, funding that's going into it has been pushing quantum computers, and the diversification in this market has created a lot of competitors that are really pushing each other to perform those results. So, I mean, I think the best time to start was yesterday.
Yeah, it's like the old Chinese proverb: the best time to start growing a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Tom, I see you also signaled.
Bob, I just heard an additional aspect to that question, and maybe I misheard it, but give me a chance to plug a new technology. But I thought part of the question was if these new PQC standards from NIST are going to stave off quantum attacks for thousands of years, millions of years, lifetimes, whatever, who knows? Why do we need to keep looking at further use of like QKD? And we are at Accenture, we're very strong on QKD for the future. The best we've got now to protect the world are these new standards that use a different kind of math that aren't susceptible to a quantum attack, and that's good. But a quantum attack is not the last attack on cryptography and critical infrastructure in the world. There's going to be lots of additional kinds of attacks that people haven't even figured out. So moving towards a provably perfect way to exchange keys, which is what QKD represents in concept, is absolutely where we want to get to as a global community. So we working with a lot of the sort of the people that sell the picks and shovels people, so the telcos and the compute people and governments, to really continue to advance the science around QKD, because we do believe that in the 2030s that is going to become a necessary part of our global defenses. So we don't think of it either or. Everyone needs to go down the PQC route now, because that's the best solution available, and it will stave off the current anticipated attacks. But we don't think that that's the end of the game, and we think QKD has a tremendous amount of promise to secure the world.
Cool. And out of respect for all of your guys' time, I know we lost Keeper already because she had some other commitments to get to, and I'm sure the rest of you do too. Maybe we'll just close out with a final message from you guys to the audience. We'll try to keep it to like kind of 30 to 60 seconds. What's the sort of elevator pitch? And Scott, because I know you're so good on the fly, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. I think, what the ancient Chinese proverb is truly the thing that people need to think about. The best time to start, if you haven't already started, is today, from a journey perspective. That doesn't mean that you have to spend a lot of money. That doesn't mean that you have to take action today, other than making sure that you've educated yourself enough that when the time arises and when the need arises to do something, that you are prepared.
Amen. Beautifully said. Tom.
Yeah. So again, great presentations. I learned stuff from all my peers. I love listening to Scott's analogies. I'm gonna write some of them down. But going forward, I'll leave people with the thinking that quantum, is unique and interesting as it all is for everybody that's so focused on it, I would suggest you don't think of it as a silo. We are starting to integrate it into everything we do for our clients. Both on what a quantum algorithm can do for you and what quantum sensing can do to do for you, but also the security from it, but not as a separate thing, just built in. Hey, if we're going to go up, move you to the cloud, let's move you to a quantum safe cloud. Hey, if we're going to go move this compute program over here, let's see what parts can be done on a quantum computer today and tomorrow. So think of it breaking down the silos. We're doing, quantum works better in space than it does on Earth. There's about to be a multi-trillion-dollar space economy that's just starting. And I was laughing Bob, when you did your opening, because it wasn't more than 2 weeks ago that I was in our lab with, it wasn't a hammer and a nail, but it was the soldering iron, putting a quantum entropy chip onto a satellite that's going to be going up into space soon, because you do have to think about that. But lasers work better in space and than they do on Earth. You don't have that pesky fiber optics thing. So just think about it, not quantum as a silo. Understand it, learn it, take whatever your expertise is and apply it, but think broader than just who else in quantum cares. Who else in business cares, who else in government cares, who else in solving the world's great problems cares, and integrate in, become part of those teams, and I think you'll find it really fulfilling. We do.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I Accenture stuff. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to say that.
Nice. I appreciate the soldering iron reference. Rob.
Yeah, I'd say just from a policy perspective, I mean, the question was barriers. I think it's barriers and opportunities. It's a double-sided question. The government has the opportunity and the power and the ability and a proven track record thus far of fostering quantum science and quantum development. And what we need to do, most importantly, is to keep them on that path. Bring them in, educate them in terms of what is best for getting to societal's best outcomes using quantum technologies, and ensuring that they don't make mistakes that are well-intentioned or perhaps poorly targeted because they just don't understand. So I think a potential barrier is not continuing to work with government throughout this pathway as we move from foundational science and research to commercialization and deployment, working throughout that process to make sure that this giant power that is working alongside us is working with us, and that we don't find ourselves in any way at cross purposes or accidentally or otherwise. So I think from a government affairs perspective, that's the number one kind of guiding light or guiding star for moving forward.
Perfect. Yeah, sounds good. That actually tied nice into some of Tom's opening lines about him being the biggest advocate for adopting quantum safely, in a safe and secure way, I think he said. Yeah, great points, Rob. And last but not least, Ashmini.
Yeah, so I think the obvious answers when it comes to barriers often are hype, like quantum is phony and it's overinflated. The other is barriers. Barriers wise is the barrier to entry. Quantum physicists and mathematicians can, take up this space with jargon that is way over the head of most people. But what I think is one of the biggest barriers of entry is that the market is just so diversified. You have big players like IBM and Quantinuum and Inflection who are taking up a lot of space, but you also have burgeoning startups like PsiQuantum that have a lot of investment, and they still haven't come out with something, but it shows a lot of promise. So just all the varying qubit modalities and the architectures, I think over time we'll see the market narrow, and you'll see your incumbents and some of the smaller startups will fall to the sidelines. But I think for a lot of clients, they're just not sure where to start. And what we've done so far with setting up what that day zero looks like is taking, a bit of a pulse check on what their appetite looks like, because you could partner with some big quantum company, or you could maybe see if there's a smaller startup that has a more niche solution for a really highly specific use case. So, we believe in setting those strategies so that there's actually a Wall Street Journal tech article that came out a while ago about how AI is leaving consultants behind. And for a lot of clients felt like consultants were learning on the job. And I think that's because when AI came out into the mainstream and ChatGPT was this consumer technology, was highly tangible, but quantum isn't like that, in that it requires people with a lot of expertise. So I think for consultants, we're going to really be guiding our clients through this forest of quantum physics rabbit holes about entanglement, superposition, and not trying to get too deep into that, but also trying to really discern what use cases work well so that we're not trying to solve problems that could be solved classically. So there are several barriers with just how much is out there and the paradox of choice. But I see professional services being kind of the light at the end of the tunnel to help guide our clients through the jungle that is quantum.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I think unless QED-C wants to say the final word, I think we will wrap there from a time perspective. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It was great to have you.